1, 2. 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
What's this rally all about? Why'd you come out for it?
Well, I came out, it's my standard answer today. I came out to stand with like-minded people who have strong opinions and similar opinions, and really to pray under God in D.C., to stand out here and to stand together and show people we're not crackpots.
We got to stand up and take back our country.
Our doorstep in this country is extremely dirty, and it needs straightened out before we go straighten other people's up.
If we go down, the world is going down behind us. And as it's proven now, the world follows our economy. Except now for China, for example. They're doing very well.
We're the only nation like this in the world, and if we lose this, there's nothing else.
This is the last bastion of hope, okay? And right now, we're on very shaky ground.
You don't think there's any other bastions of hope in the world?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Canada, maybe?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
This is the last bastion of hope right here, okay? Right here. America, okay? God shed his grace on thee.
They want us to take a slap in the face by putting a mosque up there near Ground Zero. Well, how many mosques are in New York right now? There's a bunch of them. Why do they need another one? Just to slap us in the face?
Islam is not just a religion. They couch it in it being a religion, but it's not. It's a lifestyle.
It's not that they can't build a mosque. They just don't need to be building it right there and thumbing their nose up at us.
And do you think that's what they're doing by building it?
I know that's what they're doing.
I think it's sticking the eye in the American people. 3,000 people died there. By
Muslims are sticking a thumb in our eye and saying, "There, what are you going to do about it?"
This has nothing to do with an olive branch. It has everything to do with building a victory monument for their outlandish attacks upon America.
They've taken down those towers. And by taking down those towers, they've showed to the world that they've had victory over America and over the devil of the West.
We don't want this to become another Mecca, whereas there was a Muslim victory here, okay?
To put that right there not only smacks the families in the face, but America in general. It just doesn't belong there.
They have more mosques in New York City than you shake a stick at. What the devil do they need another one?
Wherever they have achieved a victory, they build a mosque.
But some might say that what's happening is they're confusing radical Islam with more moderate Islamic factions.
Yeah. I learned all I needed to know about Islam on 9/11.
What do you think needs to happen with immigration in our country, and why do you think it's a problem?
Let's just enforce the laws that are already on the books.
If they want to come into this country, do like the old immigrants did. They were proud to come here. And they learned to speak English after they got here. Yeah. And they were proud to learn.
And you don't think a lot of the immigrants that are coming over are proud to come here then?
No, they're just coming for a free ride.
I caddied for many years. I watched guys who used the system. They came up only in the summertime to work in the country clubs, and they would send all the money back to Central America, and then go back down in the wintertime and live like kings.
They'll slip in, have a baby, and then we're going to support them. They're going to slip back across the border, take their money with them, and come back and forth and say, please, because this one here's a citizen.
When you come over illegal, intentionally pregnant, to have the child born here, this way the child becomes an American citizen, and then therefore the parents have to stay as well.
If you just come across across the border just to have a baby, then that's wrong.
No, a lot of because it takes still 21 years for you to file. If you have a kid here, it takes your kid has to be 21 years old before they can file for your parent to achieve residency.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it just seems strange that people would be coming over to have a kid and then wait 21 years for residency.
Well, all I know is what my sister tells me. She lives in Arizona, and she says she has seen people waiting in parking lots, pregnant women, in parking lots just waiting to have their baby. And that's sad.
But wouldn't there be pregnant women and waiting to have their baby in hospital parking lots, even if they were here legally?
Yeah, but they're here legally.
So please join me in welcoming Chase and Eric. I'm not sure. Oh, there you are there.
Thank you. So first of all, just thank you, everyone, for coming out and for having us, the people who put this on. So in the video you just saw, it's easy, and a lot of our audience, we've noticed, thinks that what we're trying to do is, say, get people who are perhaps inarticulate on camera about politics or something and lump them together and make a little entertainment piece. But that isn't what we're trying to do, actually. If you see in the video, there are three main sort of topics that are covered there. The first one is this idea that the United States is it. It's the only country, and if we don't, protect our country, the rest of the world will, I suppose, disappear into some sort of communist, socialist anarchy. Okay. The second one is that this mosque is being built in Manhattan, and we have to stop it because it's this victory monument. It's all of these things. The third one is that immigration, the problem with immigration is that we have anchor babies coming over here. And what connects these three things and why so many different people were talking about them, why we this montage where one person after another is saying basically the same thing verbatim. You heard a lot of people, a thumb in the eye, a smack in the face, a punch in the mouth to Americans to build this victory monument, right? Is because those are the issues that conservative media were preoccupied in the 2 weeks or so leading up to that event. And so that's what we've tried to get at. I don't know how many people are familiar with the videos we do, but we run this sort of ongoing political video series where we do interviews with people at various political protests, and it's amazing how shallow the preoccupations are. They only are worried about exactly the issues that the news commentators and news personalities, in the case of this rally, it was a Glenn Beck rally, so like what Glenn Beck is worried about those weeks, what Rush Limbaugh is worried about in those previous weeks, becomes the dominant thing that people at these events are worried about. For instance, how many people remember here, and a show of hands, everyone's a little, lots of speeches here, remember the New York City mosque controversy? How many people remember when that was, right, how many people know what actually happened? Right, the news forgot. It stopped being interested. So these people forgot to talk about it too. If you went to a rally today, they wouldn't be worried about it because Glenn Beck's moved on. They've moved on to new issues. And so that's what we try to show on our pieces, is just how ephemeral the news is and how we're focused on only the most recent, is this going on? Okay, we're here. Only the most recent narratives in the news. You may say anything?
No, that's fine for now. I think we could take questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, so we're doing this a little differently. We wanted to have sort of a discussion about issues related to partisanship, journalism, social media about this. And so, questions? How does it play with the Democrats? We've covered liberal rallies in the same way, and we have actually moved on from doing these kinds of interviews, but this is what we were asked to sort of come and talk about. So in liberal rallies, it's the same way. What's that?
I could say something about that standing rally.
Yeah, and okay, we're sorry. So it's like a lot of the talk here today is about social or new technologies, new communications technologies, and how they've enabled us to have a democratic media, all these good sounding things. But we actually think there's a lot of concern with our modern communications technologies that allow us to have infinite choice in the media that we get. If you go back a few decades, you basically had the three major broadcast news networks and your newspaper, and that was it in terms of what media came into your home. And so there were voices of authority. There were people who were deciding for us what facts we all agree on to premise public debate, right? And today you're finding that with infinite choice in our media, people are programming their own partisan, insular little information bubbles. Someone who listens to Rush Limbaugh and reads the Drudge Report and watches Fox News lives in an entirely different reality from someone who watches Rachel Maddow, reads the Huffington Post, and listens to, well, I guess Air America is no longer, but maybe NPR would work. And so with Democrats, it's actually it's the same thing. You see people who are regurgitating the preoccupations of those partisan hosts who've become popular, sometimes verbatim. It's not as potent, I wouldn't say, though.
And then we actually covered the Restoring Sanity rally that Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert held on the National Mall, as well as the Wisconsin Union protests. And we found sort of a similar phenomenon there in which people, if we were at the Sanity rally, we were to ask people about Fox News, what they thought about Fox News, or what they thought about the Tea Party. They could only really say what, they could call them teabaggers, or sort of say, well, they're uninformed, or they had very shallow, small ideas, and not for their fault, but because the messages that are being delivered are very simple and very myopic. And so everyone's a victim of this to an extent.
Right. I hope that was all cogent and stuff. More questions? Yeah. No, for me. You did fine.
I'd like to hop in here if I don't want to hog the spotlight or anything, but could you talk to us a little bit about your editing process and what decisions you're making when, I'm sure you interview more people that are on your videos, but what decisions you're making when you put those segments in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we edit and first of all, there's certain things to consider when you're producing media on the internet where the economy of videos is like cat videos, you're up against some really bad stuff. And good stuff, too. Some of the cat videos are very good. And so to some degree, we edit for entertainment. We edit to keep things moving briskly for there to be humor. But what we try to get at is never to indict a single individual, never to embarrass someone or say, look, this person is dumb or something like that. We try to put it into a montage and cover those things we hear over and over and over again to show how pervasive and how powerful partisan media is in influencing what things people are talking about.
And I would add that it's been a learning process. In the first couple videos, we were just sort of compiling clip reels of the funniest moments in the videos. But the response that we got, in which people, if you've ever read YouTube comments, what those are like, and people were just really, really hateful with their comments and were using our videos as partisan bludgeons, which we never intended them to be. So as we continued working, we decided that we needed to edit them with more responsibility and thought about the messages we were sending with the videos we were editing. Yeah, so it's been a learning process.
Yes. I mean, the amount of ideas we could have to come up with an edited project are, of course, infinite. So
we've had that.
Yeah, we've had that idea.
For those of you who couldn't hear, the question was, have you thought about putting liberals and Republicans and conservatives together on the same sort of platform? Anyone else? Questions? Why don't we use the microphone? I'm sorry.
We get so much of our news through press releases and not so much through investigative journalism. So people are always kind of deciding what facts we should know. So do you guys have any ideas of how we can try to get over that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So now that we don't have these big, monolithic, powerful news media institutions like we used to, but so many now that people can just ignore media outlets at their will whenever they want to, right? That people who are releasing press releases and things like that, if you have 24 hours of cable news to cover, that doesn't mean there's actually 24 hours of news in a day worth covering. So they fill that content with a bunch of PR and things that are generated for them. The solution to get there to be more investigative journalism is a matter of economics. The money has to be there. Obviously, when you had a scarce media environment, when there was just a newspaper sopping up those ad revenues, it had fortunes of money. I mean, the newspapers used to have more money than they knew what to do with. It was easy to underwrite bureaus that were national, foreign, local, state house bureaus, as an example, and to fund those investigations. Today, now that advertising dollars are dispersed across an infinite internet and a 400 cable channels and every other thing that we have for our media, suddenly the money isn't there to fund things that aren't basically super entertaining. And arduous investigative journalism isn't especially entertaining, so it doesn't tend to get a lot of those dollars. So we think the solution is to increase public funding for media. It's the worst time to suggest such a thing, but nonprofits citizen journalism isn't going to replace it. There's a lot of talk about, citizen journalism is going to do it. But the truth is, investigations are expensive. They require libel insurance. They require the institutional heft of a big company with lawyers and a platform to get a message out. And I don't think that most bloggers, that's why we don't see a lot of great investigative journalism from bloggers, even though we have more bloggers than anything else. You want to add to this?
Yeah, what I was going to add is the other thing that needs to be done is, what the media, we need to be more conscious of the way we're choosing and consuming media, The computer isn't just an entertainment device. It's not just for cat videos. It's not just to chat with your friends on Facebook about what you did that weekend. It's like a democracy information communication device that has great, our use of it has great repercussions, and so we need to consider the way we use it. And so maybe for every cat video you share, and we love cat videos, so that's why we keep talking about them, but for every cat video you share an article, share something thoughtful. Hello. You're your own editor, and you're the editor of your friends. So we all have a lot more responsibility as media consumers and media makers than we've ever had before.
Yeah, I'll just add to that a little bit. So, like, the barriers to entry for publishing are very, very low today. And techno-optimists are telling you how wonderful that is, that now anyone can publish anything. But it used to be, when it was sort of hard to publish, that we placed great importance on what we published. It had to be ethical. It had to be something worth publishing. The question was, why publish this? Today, the question is, why not publish it, The filtering no longer happens before, it happens after. So if we're all to be our individual curators of media, if we're our own filters of what we bring into our media environment, because there aren't monolithic media organizations doing it, that raises the individual responsibility to choose good content. So every time you're clicking around the Huffington Post, Obama says this about Sarah Palin, or, and all of these sort of junk news snacks that don't mean anything. Certainly not investigative journalism. You're voting. You're saying, I'm going to give Huffington Post money for running this story because I'm clicking on it. I'm going to give this organization money by clicking on it and sharing it. So you vote where you want your media money to go in a way that you don't, because we don't pay for a newspaper, New York Times paywall, okay. But for the most part, we're not paying for our media, so we're voting with what we consume. So I would recommend everyone be more thoughtful about what they consume. Yeah.
How did you get people to be so responsive to your questions? Like, did you just approach them and they were just open? Did you get some people say no?
Well, we don't. Our organization name is called New Left Media, which was like randomly decided one morning while we were like in our underwear after editing our first video, like trying to find a YouTube handle to upload to, and we tried like 16 or something, and like New Left Media sort of happened. And we're generally liberal, but we never meant to start like a partisan organization. It was sort of accidental. That first video got picked up by like the viral web, and it sort of took off as a thing, and we stuck with the name. So we have introduced ourselves traditionally as student journalists. We recently graduated, so I'm not sure at conservative events what that means for us yet. And so that's how we've been able, and there's this pervasive attitude in conservative circles that the Tea Party needs to get more younger people involved, because it is a very older movement. And so they're like, student journalists, great, that's perfect. This is exactly who we want to talk to. And so it wasn't too hard.
And then the other thing I would just add is, and this is sort of speaking for you, I guess, but we get questions a lot is, how does Chase keep a straight face when talking to people, which is kind of I don't want to call it a stupid question, but I disagree with the premise, which is that if we're trying to go out and do journalism, what are we going to do, like laugh at them? I mean, we treat them with respect because we do respect their opinions. We want them to talk to us. We want them to feel comfortable speaking with us. And so, yeah, you might have something.
Yeah. So when I'm like interviewing someone, I'm not there to try to like bait them into stuff. If you actually watch our line of questioning, it's usually like, why are you here today? And then they'll say something that is a recent news bit, like I talked about earlier. And I'll say, but what do you mean by that? Go under the surface of the talking points, ask them to expand. And that's when you start to realize that it doesn't go beyond what was recently in the news. But we're genuinely interested in finding out not so much what they believe, because most of us know what the issues of the Tea Party are, but why it is they believe it. What are the reasons they came to those beliefs? And that's what we try to get at. But we try to be as respectful as possible, because we do respect them. Question. Yeah, probably just one more, I'm thinking.
Okay. You mentioned some of your initial reactions that you got when you started posting the videos to YouTube, right? You went into a little bit about the YouTube commenting.
Yeah. YouTube comments, bad place for public discourse.
Now, if you refer to yourselves as journalists, and if you were to ask Jon Stewart or Steve Colbert, like, do they consider themselves journalists? They'll say, no, we're just comedians.
Right.
But you guys are serious about the journalism thing, and I'm kind of curious
we're usually called journalists more than we refer to ourselves as journalists. I think we consider ourselves more media critics.
Well, okay, media critics, journalists, whatever people call you, like how has the professional reaction been to what you guys are doing? Like the news outlets, the other media people, stuff like that?
Well, it's been mixed. Partisan media finds it like a grab bag of ways to support what they're saying, like liberal media, let's say. So, they'll say, like, stupid Tea Partiers can't explain themselves, which isn't our point, right? So that's their reaction. The reaction from conservative media, like a Daily Caller ran a thing that was like, because we say we're student journalists, they said, New Left Media uses Trojan trick to get interviews, So, well, the only Trojan trick I know how to do has nothing to do with getting interviews. But so and then we get some footage licensed from some different events, because a lot of events, when they cover Tea Parties, they're talking only to spokespeople, they're giving wide shots and not sort of wading into the crowd and asking questions of participants. So we've licensed a lot of footage from people who want that content. Does that answer your question?
I would just add that a lot of people have been rightly critical and skeptical of what we do by saying, they're only showing you what they're choosing to show you, and that they would be interested in seeing the unedited videos, which they're right to say. And so there have been a lot of people who have been skeptical and critical of the way we've worked.
And we encourage skepticism of all your media as much as possible, especially the news. So, all right, thank you everyone so much for coming out. So appreciate it.